Welcome, everybody, to the Fantasy Golf Bag podcast. I'm your host, Red Kachik, also known as Drew Matthews, and I'll be previewing my round one of the PGA Best Ball drafts at fourballfantasy.com tonight. This is a dual stream, so what I mean by that is I'm going to obviously have this out as a podcast for audio, so it'll be on iTunes, Spotify, Google, etc. But I'm also doing a video. So if you're listening to it on audio and you're curious about what I'm looking at, you can find this. I'm going to post it on YouTube on our Fantasy Golf Bag channel. So you can come find everything that I show you here is free at fantasygolfbag.com. The best ball rankings, the content for the PGA best ball stuff is all free through December 6th. And then we'll reevaluate it. But the goal is to get as much of this data out there as possible, at least for the PGA rankings. I think Fantasy Golf Bag does a really good job of kind of determining who has the best opportunity for a longer period of time. Daily fantasy is, there's obviously edges in, lineup construction, etc. But as well as I do that the stats that you look at for a week-to-week basis, say Collin Morikawa is going into whatever tournament looking great, there's still a great chance that he doesn't play well and finishes outside the top 10 or what have you. So looking at some of the key statistics that we normally do on a week-long basis, kind of extrapolating that out for 36 events, I think is what the Four Ball Fantasy is doing. It's a fun concept, and I think there's actually a nice edge to some of the cheap guys. Obviously, we'll just talk about round one picks today, so this will be pick 1 through 12. So you're just going to get one of these in each draft, but ideally, at least for me, the same way with any of the other sports is, it's random as far as your assignment of a pick. So the more entries that you put in, the better chance of having a pick 1, which we'll talk about, Mr. Jon Rahm, versus a pick 6 or a 12th pick, et cetera, coming back down the horn. So, we can go ahead and dive into it. And like I said, if you're listening to this on the audio portion, I appreciate it. But you can find an accompanying video with this podcast on YouTube. And it may make a little bit more sense when I start pointing at something. And I'll probably catch myself at some point saying, look here. And I apologize. I'll try to do the best I can of remembering there's only an audio portion on this stream. So with that being said, let's go ahead and open up the Fantasy Golf Bag ranking. So like I said, this is all going to be free. I just posted my article today. And I'll pull that up right now. So this was just 3 guys that I really like early on in round 2. So I highlighted Sam Burns, Scotty Scheffler, Sungjae Im. So you can go read that. Again, it's free. All this stuff will be free through December 6th. So let me hop back to the home screen, and then I'll go into our PGA best ball rankings right here. So I'm obviously this stream for 12 guys, and I could go through and talk about each one of them for probably 4 or 5 minutes, and probably a couple over 5 minutes. To keep it short, I'm only going to highlight about 6 guys, and that'll be the premise of this podcast and this stream. Obviously, the data is there. You can go look at it. You can go look through the exact same stuff I'm showing you on this stream, and do that for all the other guys that I have ranked inside the top 12 for the 4 ball ranking. So, like I said, we'll just quickly go through the 12, and then I'm going to highlight some of the reasoning behind the rankings of some of these guys. I think some are self-explanatory. Some might be tougher to distinguish. I mean, like a Bryson at 3, and again, we'll talk about here in just a second. But for the 4 ball rankings, we got Jon Rahm at number 1, Collin Morikawa number 2, Bryson at number 3, Jordan Spieth, maybe surprising for some that don't like putting, number 4, then Dustin Johnson, number 5, Patrick Cantlay, number 6, a little bit of a drop down. I think some people think he should probably go in the top 3, but I have some thoughts behind that. Justin Thomas, number 7, Xander Schauffele, number 8, Victor Hovland, number 9, Matthew Wolff, a huge bump up to top 10 right now. He's number 10. Abraham Ancer, 11th, and 12th is Tony Finau. And like I said, in the article, I highlight the guys that I want to look at first: Sam Burns, Sungjae Im, and Scotty Scheffler. Nestled in there, you can see Brooks Koepka and Cameron Smith. But the guys that I kind of want to lean outside of the rankings is are those three: Burns, M, and Scheffler. So with that being said, like I said, it's probably, yeah, we'll just go ahead and start with number one, and then I'll talk about some of the reason why. I think Patrick Cantlay and Jon Rahm early on was a 1-2 that was switching back and forth. But let's go ahead and talk about Jon Rahm really quickly. So let's see here. Let me pull that up. All right. Let's pull up Jon Rahm in this one here, and I'll just kind of walk you through my reasoning for number one. Sorry, I thought this screen was already up, but we're pulling it up right now. Here's Mr. Jon Rahm. All right, so I think it's really interesting if you look at how the actual finishes were. So like if you pull up, let me pull up this screen here. So this is the 4-ball weighted results. So again, it's only for 36 events for the 4-ball championship. So the best ball rankings the best ball contest will run those 36 events. So what I pulled here, you can see the actual money during that span this past season. And obviously there's some events that are being added this next year on the European tour, like the Scottish Open is co-sanctioned. But for sake of argument, Jon Rahm is here sitting number 3 at $6.2 million earned during that span. Colin Morikawa was number 1 at $6.6 million. But let's just take a quick look at Jon Rahm's 2021 really quick. We all know the historic COVID pull from Memorial, where he had a WD, earned no money for that event. Thusly, when he goes into the Tour Championship, he's sitting back. Obviously, the Tour Championship doesn't count. But going into the FedEx Cup playoffs, he's already behind on Cantlay. So the reasoning there was between Cantlay and Rahm, just that one event alone swung, $1 million for Rahm, sure. So, just that alone, that throws Rahm at $7.5 million over $6.6 million second place. That's ridiculous. $7.5 million. That's $1 million gap. And then Patrick Cantlay would probably fall 500,000, I would say, just from an argument's sake, let's just say he drops to $5 million. That's a pretty big swing. It's a $2 million swing right there. So that's kind of where I'm looking with Jon Rahm. I think Jon Rahm has been so consistent. Obviously, he plays enough on the PGA Tour. It's going to make it worth it. But you can just look through his finishes. Outside of the win at the U.S. Open, he was just inside the top 5, just cranking out top fives. The Masters was good. So like any of these big events, like the WGC, the Players Championship, the Masters, the PGA Championship, he finished T8 there. T5 at the Masters. Those are all really good big events for a purse. So Jon Rahm for me is definitely the number one guy. I think there's, again, you could go through the data. In my mind, if you just run out a normal Memorial as good as he was playing, I think he still have the rounds of 69, 65, 64. He was leading by 6, I think, at that point. Just tack on another 1.2 million. We got, it's a huge gap between first and second place right there. So Jon Rahm is clearly my number one guy. And then because Jon Rahm gets a huge bump for me, Patrick Cantlay gets a fall down to 6, which I won't cover this week or cover on this show specifically. But I think he's still in round 1, obviously. I think there's guys that are going to have some upside. I'll go ahead and quickly just mention Colin Morikawa. Obviously, number 2 is playing fantastic. He's a young guy, obviously, with one major, WGC. He just won the DP World Tour, Race to Dubai, whatever it was in Europe. I think that's an obvious play there in the top 3 or top 4. So I have him second. Bryson's a little bit interesting at 3. I just think I was really impressed with what Bryson did this year, with how far he was gaining distance, and then was able to contend with his irons in a lot of these events late. He wasn't dominating any events, but in the events he played well, like at Bay Hill, that's quote unquote domination to me. So let's just assume he stays somewhat stagnant and, keeps his distance up and maybe hones in his short game, because we know his short game was awful. He was picking up 30 yards, 40 yards that year. And he's having 80 yards and he doesn't know how to tone it down or something. So I think that improves. And I think that's a really good chance if Bryson can maintain that distance, which I assume he's doing everything he can to do, if not increase. I just feel like that's a ceiling year for Bryson. So Bryson, number 3. Jordan Spieth is the next guy I want to highlight. So with just talking about Jordan Spieth, he is coming in with a baby news, I guess, this last weekend. So we'll see how that plays out. But as of now, he's 4th on my list. But I did want to walk through just how good he's been. So I pulled up the PGA Tour website, and we'll look at 2021, starting back at the Farmers Insurance was the first one back. So miscut at the Farmers Insurance, and this is just starting off the year. And then he cranked out a T4, a T3, T15, T4, in contention for 3 of those weeks. He had a win at the Valero Texas Open, another T3, a second at the Charles Schwab, a second at the British Open. Just a lot of top 5s and top 3s, some top 10s in there. And I don't think, I hopefully, my idea is with him going so high, he cracks a couple of those seconds into wins, and he has a Jon Rahm type of year with $7 million. That's kind of my idea with Jordan Spieth. And I know people hate just thinking Jordan Spieth's good at golf, but he is good at golf. He does it in unique ways, and sometimes I think overly variable ways to some people, but he does it time and time again. So I think, like I said in the past on the Fantasy Golf Bag podcast, some people are just good at putting, and his short game is just ridiculous. His putting is ridiculous. He makes 35 footers like it's nothing a couple times around. So yeah, so Jordan Spieth would be number 4 for me. The next guy on the list I want to highlight, Dustin Johnson, number 5. You can see here even like $1.7 million was not a very good stretch of golf for DJ. After he won the Masters in the fall of 2019, fall of 2020, the DJ train kind of ran off the tracks a little bit. So I'll pull up his player card on the PGA Tour's website, and I'll kind of explain why I think. Obviously, DJ is just a special breed. I mean, he's one of the guys that every time he tees it up, he's like a 12-1 favorite, no matter what, even when he's playing bad. It seems like when you're going for some of these big GPPs, big contests in the best ball contests, looking for upside is what you want. So obviously Jon Rahm, we know he has upside. Colin Morikawa, upside in my mind is like 3 or 4 wins in a season. As we go outside of round 1, obviously you're not going to get 3 wins, 3-win guys. I mean, I guess Sam Burns Berger's just a lock, I'm sure, but Hideki Matsuyama, Scotty Scheffler, guys in the second round. I mean, they can get 2 wins, maybe 3, but I just feel like DJ is one of those guys. He could get 2 or 3 wins early, get 1 more win at a major somewhere, and just have an obscene year. So that's a lot of what goes into this first round is guys that you think can break the slate. And for me, DJ is one of those guys. So I'll go back to his stuff right here. And you can see a lot after that Masters tournament. He really struggled in the first half of the year, all the way through like late June, July. And then he started to turn it around. A lot of good rounds in there. I mean, like at the WGC here, 69, 65, 65, 70. Just a lot of bad rounds mixed in. T8 at the Open Championship, you can't really fluke that. T20 at the US Open. And then he finished the year off good. So I will say, I mean, he did finish on a high note. And if we look at 2022 so far this fall, he's played pretty well. But like a T6 of the BMW Championship, and then in the super limited field Tour Championship, he finished 8th, shooting 68, 69, 68, 67. So I think he's on the right trajectory. I feel like he kind of went through that spurt after the Masters win. He got the monkey off his back, and he really struggled. I mean, it was awful. I mean, T54, T48, miscut, T48, miscut. Obviously, that's not going to get the job done for our first-round pick, but I do think we're going to see more of a 2020, 2019 DJ, and that's the reason why I have him up here as my number 5 guy. Going into the next play that is mentioned is Sorry, Patrick Cantlay. So I told you I wasn't going to really discuss Patrick Cantlay. I think he's very consistent. I don't know if he has a 3-win season in him. Probably a lock to win at least once. Probably a good chance to win twice. So, like I said, he's an easy first round play, but I don't think he goes above a Spieth or a DJ, a Bryson for me. So Patrick Cantlay, number 6. Justin Thomas, I'm going to highlight on this podcast. Justin Thomas, number 7. He actually had a better year than I even realized he had. I don't know why that is. If I pull up his data golf card here and we'll go back to 2021. So we're on JT 2021. You can see already 2022, he had a pretty good start at the CJ Cup and the Worldwide Technology at Mayakoba. But if we go back to 2021, look through his stats. I mean, ball striking off the tee and approach are just phenomenal all year. But his finishes were awful. So like T42, T40, miscut, T26, T21. And again, we're talking Justin Thomas. T21 is not a good finish, especially in DFS when you're paying $11,000, $10,700, $10,500 for Justin Thomas. It's as soon as he's outside the top 20, you're basically you lost a roster spot. So, but looking deeper, we can see. I mean, even outside the win at the Players, statistically, he's been I thought he was going to have a great year. So there's no point in me kind of hopping off the bandwagon this year, especially when I feel like he's one of those special players that can go on those, like I said, three wins in a season. That's basically what I want to target here. But yeah, you can see through. Again, I'm talking to a podcast crowd and a live stream crowd, or not a live stream crowd, a video crowd. But you can see the approach numbers, which I kind of care about more for a longer term perspective, are so consistent. I mean, he's gaining strokes on the field every single event. He's got 3 events. 3 events out of what? How many is this? 20 events, probably 24 events that he didn't gain strokes on approach to the field. I mean, that's pretty nuts. Putting has just been, he had a bad stretch of putting there with those 2 missed cuts. So yeah, I just, from a ceiling perspective, I think JT is it. I don't think that's any surprise to anybody. I guess some people could even argue Justin Thomas goes ahead of a DJ or Jordan Spieth. I mean, Jordan Spieth I probably have higher than most people have in their rankings for best ball, but again, I'm taking the contrarian approach a little bit and just feeling like there's got to be some upside the way Jordan was playing this year without a win. So let's see here. Going down into Mr. Xander Schauffele, number 8. Xander, I think originally I had him outside of round 1, and then I started looking back through a little bit of his stuff. So let me pull up his PGA Tour player card for 2021. And he just, outside of the Olympics, he didn't win anything. And I think that's probably what threw me a little bit. I mean, he's so consistent. And I think over the long haul of 36 events, he's not going to play all 36 events. We'll say 20 events. He's going to have a lot of top 5s. I mean, you can even look through here. This wasn't all the events in this segment, the 36 events, 8 top 10s and 22 starts, 16 top 25s. Not too concerned with that. He had, 4 top 3s, 8 top 10s. It's pretty good. Just the consistency. And again, the T2s could easily be wins. T3s are close to a win. I mean, there's just a few things that need to go his way. So from what he's shown us the last couple of years, I don't see any reason to think he's going to fall off a mountaintop anytime soon. So yeah, I think Xander's a safe spot at number 8. I don't think you're reaching if you get him at 8 or 7 or 6, but definitely, I think he's definitely worth consideration in the first round. That's why I have him 8th. The next couple guys, it gets a little bit squirrely. I don't think you can't really go wrong in the first round so much. I mean, you're not going to lose the contest in the first round. I mean, unless someone gets hurt, God forbid. But I mean, if you took Patrick Cantlay number 1 over Jon Rahm for some reason, I mean, you're not really going to shit the bed taking Cantlay. So there's nobody that I can speak to in the first round that if you take any of the guys I have in the top 12 here, you are going to, you're really behind the eight ball. I think some of these guys maybe look a little funny ahead of winners like a Hideki or Brooks Koepka, et cetera, but they play more events. I think that's an important part of the contest is the number of events like an Abraham Answer, which we'll look at here in a second, and their consistency over that time period. So the Victor Hovland I will talk about. He has just been, I'll bring up Victor Hovland and Wolff. Wolff had a huge jump for me this fall. He was so bad last year. Victor Hovland, I don't know what else you can say. He's kind of in the same ballpark as JT. He's almost more consistent in a way. Obviously hasn't been on tour as long as JT for sure, but the ball striking stats are as good or better, maybe on average, than JT. And we can look at that right here. I have the Data Golf player card pulled up for Hovland here. So you can look through outside of, let's see, the beginning of the year, like you played in one European tour event, not concerned with that. Again, like Matthew Fitzpatrick's is normally a great play in DFS, but when you look at how many events he's going to project to play on the PGA Tour during this year, or any PGA Tour season, he's going to mix European and PGA. And obviously this is only counting PGA events. So like Matthew Fitzpatrick's a great play in any other contest except this one. You need the PGA event. So that's just a side note because I saw a European Tour event here for Hovland. But yeah, you can see it T5, T2, T3, T3. A win there on the European Tour, which would not help us one bit, although there's some co-sanctioned events. So that might, I don't know if the BMW International Open's a PGA Tour co-sanctioned event, but that would be nice. I think the Scottish Open is, and I think one other one by around the summer, around the British Open is. But the approach numbers, again, like I said, I think off the tee is fine to look at, but approach numbers on a long-term basis, the consistency for a first-round pick is what I want. And you can see down the board, he's always, he lost more strokes to the field on approach than JT because he lost five events. He lost strokes to the field versus, was it 4? I think it was for JT. But you can see, he's gained 2.5 strokes here, 2.5 strokes here, 2 strokes. His ceiling is pretty high. A lot of top 3s, a good chunk of top 20s, which is fine. You're still racking up the money, but I don't think there's too much I can say on Hovland. You're just kind of hoping for another one of those seasons where he gets another 2 wins. We'll say this late in the first round, 2 wins would be satisfactory. I don't think I would be very hard pressed to see like a Victor Hovland compete with a Jon Rahm for this stint in this type of contest, at least. Same with like a DJ. He can certainly do it. We've seen him. Even just this year, this fall swing, the Shriners, he gained 1.5 strokes against the field. He's continuing it on into the Mayakoba, where I can only assume he gained as many strokes or more on approach and off the tee, and then he won that event. So I think there's big things for Hovland. Let me transition really quick to Matthew Wolff, and then I'll finish off with the last 2 plays here. We're right at 24 minutes, so this is going on perfectly. This is basically what I wanted to do, is just highlight the top 12 we have at Fantasy Golf Bag, and kind of the reasoning behind some of them, because obviously people can pick and choose between a third pick and a 4th pick, 5th pick, etc. So give a little bit of reason. I felt like the context would help. All right, Matthew Wolff here. All right, you can see I have his Data Golf player card pulled up. I'll skip back. Actually, I'll skip back to 2021 really quick before we talk about 22 this fall. His 2021 season was just awful. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see just very little green, not a ton of, obviously more red than green, but he was right around average all year. T15 was his best finish in this late stretch. 1, 2, 3, 4 missed cuts, 2 WDs, a DQ at the Masters. I mean, it was a very bad year for Matthew Wolff. Fast forward, if I could speak. Fast forward to 2022. Sanderson Farms, T17. Shriners Open, second. Mayakoba, T5. Houston Open, T11. And remember, the Mayakoba, he shot 61 to lead on the first day to finish T5. So, like, again, the opportunity he had to win both the Shriners, where he finished second, and then the Mayakoba, where he finished T5. If he can continue that type of play, the play we saw back in 2020, that's the Matthew Wolff that I think can go in the first round. Again, I honestly think Wolff at 10 is a little bit of a hot take, but if I had to get any of these guys, Wolff is the guy I could see rattling off 2 wins. Hideki's a great player. I just don't see him winning 2 times. He's just too inconsistent with the putter. Kind of the same reason why like a Louis Oosthuizen or a Corey Connors. Corey Connors plays a ton of events, very consistent. He's not going to get it done on the greens enough to pay off a number 10 pick, basically. So Matthew Wolff, number 10 there. And then I'll just finish off with the last couple. I thought it was really interesting. If you look at Abraham Answer, and I had it written up, and let me just tally it one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think it was 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yes. So he had 7 top 5s, 7 top 10s during this stint last year. And that's the upside I'm looking for. A lot of top 10s mixing in with some wins. Abraham Answer, I feel like is one I kind of have to justify a little bit just because of the name. I mean, people play him in DFS every week. But right ahead of Sam Burns. Sam Burns is close to a round 1 pick. I have him number 13, so first going in the second round. Sungjae, with as many events as he played, it's pretty crazy. But Abraham Answer, I like his chances with his stats. They all line. He plays plenty of events, and the events that he plays, he has really good upside. Obviously mixing in a win there, a couple seconds. I mean, you're just looking for those top 3s are huge in terms of money, just like a GPP or any other DFS contest. You know, you can min cash, make the cut, and you make a little bit of money. The top 5, top 3 really is where you crank it out. And to see that many top 10s with a win, a couple top 5s inside of that, that's what I'm gearing towards with Answer at 11. I'll probably mix and match. So like I said, if I was building, so I plan to make, let's say 100 teams in the $18 contest. Abraham Answer, I would, take in the first round, and then the next team or next entry that I draft, it would be maybe a Tony Finau or Sungjae Im even. I bump Sungjae to the first round. If I'm picking that far back in the first round, obviously anything inside of the top 7 or top 6, I have it pretty set, and I probably won't steer away. But the last couple picks here, 10, 11, 12, I can certainly grab the round 2 guy into that first round and then rebound really quickly with a solid second round. I mean, I could take Tony Finau and Sam Burns and feel pretty good about it. I could take Sam Burns, Sungjae, feel really good about it. Daniel Berger is kind of sneaky from a money list standpoint. And you can go down the list here. Plenty of good options, good players to pick from, but you're really looking for the upside. I mean, Leishman, Adam Scott, they're going to be tip top on the PGA Tour this season, but are they going to be high enough for a first round pick? So that's pretty much it. The last guy that I had on the list here, you can see, is Tony Finau, and I think that'll pretty much do it. Like I said, 4Ball Fantasy, the content is right here on fantasygolfbag.com. You can read my my top 3 picks in round 2, and then best ball rankings and the 4Ball weighted results from last season, which I found pretty helpful. Along with that, you can see all of the other DFS stuff is still free we only have the Hero coming up, so this is a good time to hop into the best ball stuff with a break away from normal PGA DFS. But all the model rankings, DFS projections, and ownership are all free still at Fantasy Golf Bag. The only thing that I have behind the paywall technically is my core article. And we'll see how like the beginning of the year progresses with some of the other data that I'm working on for PGA DFS. But for now, I will continue to crank out this best ball content. I think it's really fun, a really fun format. And yeah, I think if you have any comments, please drop them below. Please reach out to me on Twitter. And we also have a Discord set up. So if you go to fantasygolfbag.com, on the homepage, you'll see a nice Discord logo right there. If you click that, it'll drop you right into our Discord chat to chat PGA DFS, NBA, NFL, best ball, whatever you want to do. So with that, guys, I am going to sign out. And I appreciate everyone listening to the Fantasy Golf Bag podcast this week, whether it was on audio, on Spotify, iTunes, etc., or on YouTube watching the video. So thank you all. Really appreciate all the support. And I'll be back later this week for another article discussing some other best ball picks that I like, and probably do an update maybe next week after Thanksgiving with some updated best ball rankings for like the mid-late third, fourth rounds. Thank you, everybody. Best of luck. Stay safe for the Thanksgiving holiday, and we will talk to you later.